go-to. Novelist Kit Whitfield thinks there is a problem with the readership.
I think that there's a lot of people outside science fiction who think that they don't want to touch something just because it's science fiction. And I think within science fiction you have some people, though by no means all the science fiction fans, who will read something because it's science fiction and be more forgiving of its faults than they would be if it wasn't science fiction. So I think if you add the two together, you can get a degree of ghettoisation.
Many successful works which are firmly sci-fi in theme are branded without that tag. Owen Coffer, whose new book, And Another Thing, continues Douglas Adams' cult series, The Hitchhiker's Guide to the Galaxy, is well aware of the clubby nature of sci-fi.
It is very much a cult thing. There's a real tight-knit group of Hitchhiker fans who have been keeping this series alive for 30 years, which is something I want to add to, you know, to help with. I don't think I'm not trying to be Douglas Adams or to take on his mantle. I'm trying to point the way to him for, you know, kids who haven't read him. So I think everything should be opened up and as many people as possible, you know, should be brought in to read the sci-fi books. And then you would dispel the myth that it is only for techie people and that sci-fi really is for everybody. Planetary catastrophes are no big deal. They happen all the time. Expanding stars sterilize the surfaces they once nurtured. Asteroids plow into hydrocarbon oceans. Planets wobble a little bit out of orbit, a few light years too close to a black hole, and tip over the event horizon. Ravenous quantum beings devour every last drop of energy on their home worlds before turning on one another. Guide note. This last was the subject of a reality show broadcast in the Sirius Tau system called Last Behemoth Standing.
Owen Coffer. Natalie, is this going to bring a whole new generation to hitchhikers, or is this for the initiated?
Do you know, I think it probably won't, which saddens me because Hitchhikers was my absolute, when I was 11, it was the thing that I read it over and over and over again. I can still probably recite huge chunks of it, which I won't, you'll be relieved to know. And I like Owen Colfer's children's books enormously, and I think they are popular for a good reason. But it's so man alive. There's a sort of intro which gives you a previously on, but good grief, you'd have to have been paying attention.
Does it not seem incredibly dated?
No, I don't think it's a Polaroid of the late 70s, 80s. Look, at the heart of Hitchhiker was an imaginary book, which was a great concept. And this has been brought forward now. And I think you read it with a certain nostalgia and sentimentality, yes. But also, I think if you read this for the first time, you think, I want to go back and read the others, because the language is springy, you know, and that's exciting.
Where were you when you first read Hitchhikers?
Oh, I was in high school and I absolutely loved it. The sense of humor was great, and went through the entire series. And like So Long and Thanks for All the Fish was just such a brilliant concept. Not so much the book itself, that was great, but when they introduced that concept, which I believe was in like the second book, where they tell the story about everyone leaving, I was just absolutely blown away. It's like, wow, you can actually be very funny while talking about the future.
But do we need this now? Because a number of authors have been updating.
I don't know if we necessarily need it, but clearly what it is in the rise of all things geek, and
but
keeping the theme with the show. Hold on. I think people have missed Douglas Adams. He's been a while. Been away a while. Of course, he left us. But I think what you have in his series of books are wonderful characters, situations, robot ships, all these different elements that you don't necessarily need a plot created by Douglas Adams. You can hand it over to Ian Coffer and he brings the characters back, and it's like a greatest hits package. Set aside
Hitchhikers for one moment and look at sci-fi generally and see, does it actually ever be regarded as literature unless it's not branded as sci-fi?
You have to rip the labels off. It's time we did this with everything. You know, labels are for packaged food in supermarkets. They're not for books. And, you know, we've had Aldous Huxley, you've had H.G. Wells, Margaret Atwood. Yeah, there's so many good writers who play with it. You know, now the whole thing is up for grabs. We shouldn't be saying, this is sci-fi, this is history, you know, this is literature, this is realism. We should be saying, is this a good book? Let's read it.
But yet Kim Whitfield says that actually the bar is set much lower, because what she seems to be saying is that sci-fi nuts will read any sci-fi, whether it's good or bad, and they're not as discerning as it were other readers.
Yeah, well, perhaps that is true, but I, for example, like Pride and Prejudice, I don't read Mills and Boon. You can't dismiss all of fiction where a boy meets a girl and they get together by saying, oh yeah, but that Mills and Boon book is rubbish. And that's absolutely the same thing with sci-fi. If you only read really, really low-rent TV fan fiction spin-offs, then you would be depriving yourself of George Orwell, John Wyndham, H.G. Wells. Why would you do that? It's just one of the hopeful joys of the rise of places like Amazon, surely, is that books will stop being sold on a case with a title on the top, and instead you'll get somebody going, oh, did you like this book? Somebody over here liked this other book, and you'll go, oh, okay, and the links will be more interesting.
Well, let's swap over then and say, with science being so kind of mind-blowing at the moment, should there be more science in fiction, Jeanette?
You have to leave that to writers. There'll be as much as we think we have to put in at any one time. But, you know, this is a place where, you know, the whole world is opening up now. So it's absolutely right for a fusion of imaginative capacity and scientific endeavour. Now it's time for everything to merge and not for things to be separate in little boxes. We don't live in a world of little boxes anymore.
Including little girls with knives fighting old men. That needs to happen too. Yes, it's time.
What about
what's weird? We talked about
Battlestar
Galactica before. Perfect example of a show that was hailed by critics across the world, not just in the States, everywhere it played. Couldn't win an Emmy to save its life. Couldn't even get nominations.
Yeah, but then nor could The Wire, because it turns out sci-fi bad, being black also bad.
Exactly.
Science and fiction, you like it? Things happen every week that are so bizarre but real.
I know, that's the thing. I was thinking about this week when nanoparticles can be used to cure terminal cancer comes up and you go, wow, Fantastic Voyage suddenly looks really dated. Nanoparticles, seriously? Oh, okay. So yeah, I think science fiction will become... Well, it will almost stop existing because there will be science in
I predict
fiction.
next time we're on the show, we will phaser into here. We're just woo, like Star Trek. That's what they're working on.
We'll look forward to having you back in your bathrobe. Thank you all very much. And another thing is published by Penguin on Monday. Tomorrow morning's front pages. Guardian running with the story. There was a £3 billion mistake in Osborne's budget plan, something that's being absolutely denied by the Conservatives tonight. The Times expenses bill returns to haunt up to 100 MPs. Obama's prize starts a fight. The FT terrorist suspect in Big Bang lab link. Decision to award Nobel Peace Prize to Obama divides global opinion. The Sun, my goodness, Amy's had a boob job, hee. The Daily Telegraph, cheer up, Britain is bouncing back, says Brown, hee. And finally, The Independent, war and peace at the Remembrance Service for Iraq. Well, thanks to my guests, Kevin Smith, Natalie Haynes and Jeanette Winterson. Jeremy will be here on Monday and Martha will be here with review next week. We'll leave you with pictures that geeks across the world have been enjoying today. The deliberate crash landing on the moon and the search for water. For me and all the team, have a great weekend. May the geeks be with you. Good night.
This is Science of Flight Ops.
Go Science.
We're watching the remaining few seconds of the L-Cross mission as we approach very rapidly the surface of the Cabeus crater.
Spacecraft impact. Stations report LOS.
The ground stations at Goldstone just reported
last
a
track is 11:35.054 seconds.
The shepherding spacecraft has hit the surface of the moon, and this marks the end of the L-Cross flight mission.